There are nights you pray, but feel like no one is listening. There are days you search, but find nothing but silence. It's not because God is far. It's because you're standing at the doorway of the real, and you haven't yet learned how to knock. There comes a moment, quiet, painful, when you realize you no longer feel Him. You speak to God, but your words feel hollow. You wait for a sign, but nothing arrives, and the silence doesn't feel peaceful. It feels like abandonment. But Ibn Arabi tells us, this is not distance, it is disguise. God hides Himself from the senses not to punish you, but to invite you deeper. He writes, "The veiling is a mercy, for if He were always revealed, you would never learn to seek." To the mystics, doubt is not the end of faith. It is the beginning of intimacy. The soul that questions, that trembles, that longs in the dark, is already closer than it knows. You think God has turned away, but it is your own reflection that clouds the mirror, your thoughts, your noise, your rush to understand. Ibn Arabi says, "What you call absence is presence in a form you do not yet recognize." So when you feel far from God, don't chase signs, don't force faith. Instead, fall silent. Let the ache deepen, because that ache is the place where He waits. You've been told that doubt is failure, that if you question, you are weak, that if your heart trembles, you've lost faith. But Ibn Arabi turns this upside down. To him, doubt is not the absence of God. It is the soul knocking on the veil. He wrote, "Were it not for doubt, certainty would remain blind." This means the one who questions has already begun to see. He speaks of hera, bewilderment, not as confusion, but as sacred disorientation. The moment when the soul steps beyond answers and begins to taste presence. He says, the bewildered one is nearest to the real, because when you stop clinging to certainty, you start leaning into trust, not in what you know, but in the one who knows. Doubt is not the door closing, it is the hand reaching for the handle. So if you find yourself confused, even lost, know this: you are already on the path. The fire in your chest, the ache of not knowing, is proof that your heart is still alive. Ibn Arabi never feared doubt. He walked through it until it became devotion, and so can you. What if God is not far, but closer than your own heartbeat, and you simply forgot how to feel it? Ibn Arabi taught that distance from God is never about God being gone. It's about your awareness being veiled. He writes, "The real is never absent, but He appears only to the eyes that have been cleansed by yearning." So what you call absence may actually be the space He creates so that your longing becomes sincere. The feeling of disconnection, that hollow ache in your chest, is not a punishment. It's the sign that your soul is waking up. You're beginning to want something that the world cannot give you. And this is why Ibn Arabi saw longing, shock, not as weakness, but as the fuel of the spiritual path. He said, "The lover does not seek fulfillment, he seeks the beloved." Which means you don't need certainty, you need sincerity. You don't need to feel God all the time. You need to keep walking toward Him, especially when you don't. Even in darkness, even in silence, He is with you. The Quran says, "We are closer to Him than His jugular vein." Qaf 50:16. But the closer He is, the more subtle His signs become. He speaks not in thunder, but in the pause between your thoughts. Not in visions, but in the ache that asks for Him. So trust this distance, because it is not the end of your path. It is the part where the beloved draws you in. Closeness to God is not a feeling. It is not the warmth in your chest or the tears in your prayer. Those are gifts, yes, but they are not the essence. Ibn Arabi teaches that true nearness, qurb, is not about emotion. It's about surrender. He says, To be near to God is to have no will but the will of God. This is terrifying for the ego because we want to feel in control, to direct the path, to measure the journey. But divine closeness begins the moment you stop demanding. When you say, I can't feel you, but I will still stay. I don't understand, but I still trust. That is nearness. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, the closest a servant is to his Lord is when he is in prostration, not when he's high in spirit, but when his forehead touches the ground. Why? Because closeness is not measured by highs, but by humility. So if you feel far from God, stop trying to climb up. Instead, descend into stillness, into silence, into surrender. Ibn Arabi calls this the annihilation of separation, not by removing distance, but by removing self. And when there is no self between you and God, what remains is union. Why doesn't God answer? Why do your prayers rise into the sky and fall back like echoes? Ibn Arabi would say, he is answering, but not with words. Because when God speaks, he doesn't always use language. Sometimes he uses absence. Sometimes the response is the ache itself. He wrote, God's silence is not emptiness. It is a presence too deep for sound. When your soul aches in longing and no relief comes, that very ache is the answer. It means your heart is still alive, still reaching. This is why Ibn Arabi calls silence the mother of all understanding, because only in stillness do the veils begin to thin. It's not that God hides, it's that you must become quiet enough to notice how close he already is. The Quran says, he is with you wherever you are. Al-Hadid 57:4. Not when you pray loudest, but when you sit quietly in the ruins of your doubt. This is the paradox. When you feel furthest from God, you are often the closest, because he does not dwell in your confidence. He waits for you in the tremble of your soul. So the next time silence answers you, don't walk away. Sit, breathe, and listen. You've waited for a sign, for a feeling, for a voice in your darkness. But Ibn Arabi says, the ones who arrive are not the ones who feel, but the ones who walk even when they feel nothing. Because God is not found in the comfort of clarity, but in the fire of persistence. He writes, the real gives himself not to the one who waits for certainty, but to the one who walks with broken feet. That means you may never feel close to God. You may never get the signs you asked for, but if you still pray, if you still seek, if you still whisper his names in the dark, you are already with him. This is the secret. The pain was not the obstacle, it was the path. The distance was not real, it was the veil, and the veil was part of his love. Ibn Arabi calls this the nearness of the hidden. It's not loud, it's not emotional, it's not what you expected, but it's real. You don't need a sign anymore. You've become the sign. Your silence, your ache, your longing. This is closeness. This is the return. And now, even without feeling him, you are home. If your soul found even one quiet truth in these words, then it means you're already walking. Don't stop here. Let this be the first of many awakenings. Subscribe to Heart's Whisper, where silence speaks and every breath remembers him.